expressive. Unless the lady, me, get me, gentlemen, I'm happy to see me. I'm happy to see me. I don't want to put you guys through any stress again. I have to leave. It's a eating porch for me. If I look at eating porch for me, gentlemen, I'm happy to see me. All I need to do. I'm happy to see me. I'm going to the shima. Àti joy ọkàn mi ò sí bí mọ́. Ọkàn mi ò sí bí mọ́. Ọkàn mi ò sí bí mọ́. Ẹjọ́ tó fi tó lọ. Dẹ̀bẹ̀ láàrin. Ẹjọ́ wọ́n mi mú family mi kó ní kọ́mbé. Jẹ́ kó lọ wà lọ́dọ̀ yín bá lọ bẹ́ẹ̀. Twice to time. This is all password kìíní pin pension mi fún Tẹ́mi. Wọ́n mi ṣe processing ní fún. Like the time, not about me to be jelly phone on the next of kin to me. Mommy, daddy, allow me. Yes, when they allow me, and you're not to see me. I have to leave. All on die, Jimmy. I have to leave.
Sadly, he actually took his life after that video. Now, thanks for staying with us. Now, according to a publication on the National Library of Medicine, anxiety disorders are the most prevalent mental health disorders experienced by men. If left untreated, anxiety is predictive of psychiatric disorder, including depression and associated suicide risk. Despite the prevalence and impact of mental anxiety, it remains largely overlooked in the field of men's mental health. Now, globally, men are reported to have lower rates of anxiety disorder compared to women. However, these sex differences do not reflect the complexity and nuance of men's experience. There is early evidence to suggest a man or a male-type anxiety phenotype which may go undetected with generic diagnostics classification. Muscular norms such as scoism, toughness, invulnerability appear to be central to men's experiences and expressions of anxiety, as well as men's help-seeking and coping behavior. This is particularly concerning given anxiety increases men's risk of physical and psychological comorbidities now and suicide risk. We've all heard the stereotypical and misinformation quote that says, boys don't cry, right? And it has a negative impact on this, these stereotypical expressions of masculinity on boys and men, including the pressure on young boys to prove their masculinity to their peers and in our culture. Now, so how do you think we can encourage more men to begin to be expressive, and how can we help prevent suicide in men? Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at WayShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. Because we lost a lot of time, I just want to hear your quick thoughts. How do you think it's possible?
Let me read a message from the person we have read. Gali also asked that he said you guys should treat this topic. He sent me a message when I said we found someone bold enough to come and talk to us about it, because most people, because of stigma, don't want to be the ones to be the face of depression. He said an old friend of mine, whom I'm sure you know from the old days, but haven't seen in donkey years, visited me last week. Prior to that, we were just chatting, and he was recounting all his ordeals of late. It resonated so much with me, I just said, bro, come, try to come see me. So he drove from the mainland. When he arrived at my house, the first thing I did was to give this huge bloke a huge hug, and he just broke down into tears, and I was touched. Let me just leave it at that.
So, you know, let me bring in our guest now. With experience in the real estate sector spanning a decade, Mr. Use started a new career in change work as a trainer and master practitioner of the neurolinguistics training in 2009. He founded his organization, the Innocent Mind Training and Consulting, in the same year, and in the last 13 years has effectively trained, coached, and worked with highly visible clients, organizations, religious institutions, and professionals in his change work practice. As of today, the impact of his work has been felt around the world, including Africa, the Americas, in Europe, and where he's also currently based in Europe. And I would say, might I add, that the birth of Ways has a very strong link to my training at the what's it called, the Innocent Minds Institute, right? And he's joined us. I'm super honored to be having him joining us via Zoom because he's in the UK. Thank you so much, Coach, for joining us this evening.
Hey, ladies, I hope you're having fun. Thank you for having me on the program.
Thank you so much. Sadly, we're not having you on a great note because, I mean, like Lide rightly said, you know, this topic came out of, you know, just because last week she also broke down, you know, expressing how somehow we have been able to encourage her out of a state of depression on this table, you know, and, you know, only for us to then get the sad news of the passing of that young man. I mean, this is just one out of many. You know, a lot of young men are they find it very difficult to like express, men in general, not even just young, old, young, all middle age. Men just feel like I have to be tough, I have to be this and I have to be that. And we've seen how this is actually impacting. If it's not maybe aggression or something, they just find a way, you know, to blot out that that emotion. So some get to that extent of taking their own lives because they cannot just even cope any longer, right? So I don't know. It was important for us to have this conversation. So if we really want to start based off of the topic that we say that we want to start to get men to become more expressive, first of all, is it even possible that we start to have our men talk?
Yes, we will have our men talk if we first understand this peculiar and unique situation that they are in. Men have four unique challenges, and you mentioned one of them, which is one of the most important: the role that society expects men to play. You know, men are expected to be tough, men are expected to be strong, men are expected to suck it in, men are expected not to cry, not to show emotions, and all of that. You know, the women have been told, you know, they can express their emotions and all of that. So that is the major one. But there are three other things. The second one is financial pressure. A lot of men go through financial pressure and do not know how to cope with the overwhelming challenge, particularly in the days that we're in. And this particular story is particularly linked with debt, financial indebtedness, you know, that the young man is not able to pay. So there's a lot of financial pressure that men are not able to cope with. And once you are not able to cope with, some of the women will laugh at you, including relatives, including whatever. So people want to have a limited understanding of the challenge and they want to bury the shame. So they want to, you know, just take away the shame from their family, not knowing they are going to cause a lot of issues. Remember that people are always doing the best they can with what they know. So this person thinks that going away will wipe away the slate and the family will begin on a clean slate. But that's what he is thinking and focused on at that time. The third thing, of course, is communication issues. Men do not know how to communicate emotional issues like women have been prepared over the last many generations to cope with. You know, a lot of NGOs have been brought to help the girl child, to help a lot of people, especially the female gender, but not the male gender. So we have a lot of, you know, sometimes badly raised men, ill-raised men, or men from single families where they didn't see a real man show up, you know, and be the man. And so there's a lot of gap between how women express how they feel and men express how they feel. Men are unable to express how they feel. And the last one that is very prominent is the issue of addiction. Many people who are addiction, particularly to alcohol, many people who are going through pain and who are suffering want to numb the pain with something, you know, by getting intoxicated. And men are largely the ones who take a lot of alcohol to numb the pain of whatever pressure they're going through. And that intoxication sometimes gets to a level where it begins to alter how they think and how they are reasonable. And so if you want to get men to talk, you first need to begin to understand these four key things, one of which you mentioned that allows this to happen. Meanwhile, the way men communicate is different, and the way men have been approached by society is different. I'm sure everybody who is listening today has seen that social experiment on social media where, you know, you have a woman attack a man and you also have a man attack a woman in public. When the woman attacks the man, nobody responds. Nobody goes to the rescue of the man. But when the man attacks the woman, you know, it was a social experiment that I believe everybody here has seen. When the man attacks the woman, everybody tries to stop him. Everybody tries to punch him and all of that. So men are under immense pressure. I grew up hating my father. I grew up on my mother's side a lot. And then only in recent years did I realize that there was a huge gap. You know, everybody's just pitying the woman, nobody's attending to the man. So men, you know, carry a lot of burden. Men carry in careers, men carry a lot of burden in the society, men carry a lot of burden in the workplace, in homes, and in different places. And are expected to just be supermen, you know, and all of that. My son went and boasted in school the other day and said, "Oh, his father is very rich." And I'm like, "What? Who are you going to tell your father is very rich? Who told you that? I didn't tell you I'm very rich." I don't know what he was expecting the people to do, to ask me to do, you know, but he just expects that, you know, this man can solve all problems, he can deal with all things, you know, and all of that. And he can grow up with that false expectation. Now, I'm not poor, but, you know, where did he get that impression from? So, but, you know, when women are coming up, they just have the traditional roles of make the man happy, cook. And it's daunting, I know, and patriarchy is such a challenge for men. But men have too much pressure with performing that we are not able to communicate. So if we need to begin to communicate now, we need to first, from where we are raising men, go back to where we are raising men, the boys in our homes. You know, are the boys seeing their father talk? I grew up never seeing my father talk. My father never spoke to me. He always warned and threatened. We never had conversations. We never had conversations around the table. It was warning and threat and silence. And he would say, we need to talk. He gathered us around the table and he talks for 30 seconds and he gives warning and talked about consequences and say he's done. And I'm like, what? Is that all? We're preparing for this meeting for hours. So children need to grow up seeing their fathers talk. And then when men talk, there's also a way that the society doesn't listen, particularly women. Women need to begin to pay attention to what men are saying and know when a man is beginning to play with suicide ideation or, you know, men don't express their pressures the same way as women express their pressure. We need to begin to pay attention, get close to men, know how they talk, and teach our young boys how to talk. There's a lot that we need to do.
Absolutely. All right, so you know what? Let's just quickly go on a very short break. When we come back from the break, we'll take more questions from the ladies. Stay with us. All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we're discussing suicide prevention. We're asking how can we start to get men to become more expressive? And we have with us our very own in-house coach, Innocent Usa. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at WayShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. Noma, you had a question.
Yes, I did. I wanted to take it up from that point where he said paying attention. Women need to pay attention and that boys need to be taught differently. So, sir, if I may ask, how do people, because this is culture that has gone on from generation to generation and it's just known that men are just not expressive. And now we are seeing situations of suicide, cases of suicide in very outrageous levels or situations. So I'm asking, how do and not just the women now, I mean family members, the women, how do we pay attention or begin to pay attention or begin to identify people that are struggling, men that are struggling with suicidal thoughts? And then how can children be groomed differently, especially for boys, to begin to express themselves in order that they become the adults that are vulnerable without prejudice? I don't know if that makes sense in any way. That they are vulnerable in such a way that they are not put under pressure just because they are men or that they are boys. Stigmatized. Yeah, stigmatized. Yeah.
I believe that, you know, when men are going through pressure, there's a lot that they may not be saying. And if you are paying attention to what excites the man in the house, whether it is going to play sports or whether it is going to hang out with the boys or whether it is going to church, and this person suddenly begins to do a lot of withdrawal from the things that excite them, somebody should lovingly, gently approach them and find out if everything is okay. And men don't like when people want to talk to them. They say, "Let us talk. I need us to talk. I need us to talk." It's a loving, gentle way to nudge a man into beginning a conversation, asking questions like, "Is there anything you want me to know? Is there anything you would like me to listen to you talk about?" Instead of the "We need to talk. We need to talk." I don't like it when anybody tells me we need to talk. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of men, say that we can bring things to their attention in a loving, gentle manner. There are also a lot of men who face criticism and harsh feedback from family members when it comes to the roles that they are expected to play in terms of provision, in terms of being strong, in terms of not. You hear men brag about not falling sick. Yeah, I've not been sick, for 5 years, for 10 years, as if that's the real test of manhood. And when they are sick, they hide it. And, suicide is a mental illness as well. It is a mental challenge that leads to that outcome. And so when people are not made and allowed to be vulnerable, we can appreciate men by allowing them to voice how they feel and let them know it is okay, whether it's the woman, whether it's the other members of the family, and whether it's the man. Sometimes the person who is the harshest to a woman, to a man, it's not even the woman sometimes, it's other men, who are saying to the man, "Come on, bro, why are you doing this? Man up, suck it in, suck it up," and all of that. Sometimes the enemy of the man is the man, it's not even the woman. But other men may find it easy to understand others. And then when people are going through challenges, sometimes they don't want to hear you tell them it is okay, it is well. God will hear God knows what you are going through. I understand. Sometimes the best therapeutic relationship we can have with people is just to hang around them in their dark moments without saying a word. Because many times our words are very deadly. As well intentioned as they may be, they are very deadly. People say things that they don't know is going to cause more harm to people. So you just want silence, rub their back, be there, give them massages, hip massages, make them go out on their regular outings. Get out there, get them out on their regular outings. If they are not in a hurry to talk, those are things you want to tell them. You want to go watch football with them. Tell them you want to go see their best friends. Tell them you want to just hang out with them at whatever their regular favorite spots are that they're running away from. And then you can begin to get them to be a bit more open. Instead of asking that question, nagging question, "What is wrong? What is wrong? What is wrong? You are not talking. What is wrong? What is wrong? What is wrong?"
Okay, so Mr. Usa, I want to take you back just a little bit on when you listed out the 4 things, and I want to dwell on the part of addiction, right? So when you're already with a partner, for instance, that is dependent, he has very strong alcohol dependency and all of that, how do you even begin to help that person? Because already it seems like this is already, a clear, what do I put it now, where I just go back to this is my safe place and all of that. And we know that in itself gives a ripple effect on the overall well-being of that person, because those things are only temporal. So if the person has already gotten to that stage where they're becoming maybe drug addicts or they are dependent on alcohol and all of those things just to keep them sane, to keep their mental health a bit sane and all of that, how do you help to then bring that person gradually out of that state before you then even start to think of the communication and all of that part? Because that in itself is a problem that a lot of people are actually going to, because a lot of men drink a lot. I mean, you go to the pubs, you would think that these things people don't sell. Really, the most busiest places, even within the deepest part of the pandemic, people were still going out to drink and all of this. That's to tell you how much, these men truly need help. So how do we even start to work them out of that process of addiction and dependency on substance? Then before you now think of even helping them fight, suicide and all of that. Thoughts?
I worked with a family recently, and the thing they were doing to their brother is typical of what most families do. They attack the individual taking alcohol and try to snatch alcohol away from the person's life forcefully. This does not work. So what works? What works is letting the person know that you understand what they're going through, and letting the person know that they can reduce the intake of alcohol little by little. Now, sometimes you don't even want to start with the alcohol they are taking. You want to ask them if you can get them some help, because there was a time when they were not taking either as much alcohol or any alcohol at all. But many people quickly reject people who are taking alcohol, and they attack and attack and attack them. This thing you're doing is bad. This thing is bad. Now, this thing is well intentioned, but what it does is it makes the alcoholic to shut down. But if the alcoholic knows that with my alcohol and all, I'm accepted at home, they accept the person and you can reject the behavior, then you can point the person eventually to help if you show them help. So we ignore the behavior, love the person, accept the person, and have an open communication line with the person, so that you can begin to point the person to an expert that can help them, either a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist, or whoever it is that can help the person. Family members cannot help people get off of alcohol, either by shouting, talking, showing concern, or anything. The best thing you need to do is to accept the person the way they are and gently walk with them, nudge them to the place where they can get help. But if you can do anything, is to ask them to begin to, reduce the quantity they take a little bit, and create social activities that are distractions for them that they used to love. Create those social situations. Ask their inputs. Don't dictate to them. Ask them where they would prefer to go to. Ask them what they would prefer to do that is a physical activity. Ask them if they want to play chess. Ask them if they want to play a game, a computer game. Ask them if they want to go outdoors and do something. And if they don't want to, let them know it's okay, but quietly and gently help them to go closer and closer to getting the help of experts lovingly. Many of us attack instead of love.
Okay.
So having spoken about that, and he spoke about alcoholism, I don't know if we're specifically discussing just suicidal people, because not all depressed people are suicidal. I said I was depressed. I was never suicidal, but I was in such a dark hole, like the movie Get In, when it seems as if I had fallen into a sunken place and I couldn't get out of it. And unlike people who are depressed or people who are deeply in thought, people start abusing alcohol and cigarettes. I like the occasional drink. I like the occasional cigarettes. You would think that when I was depressed, I would do them excessively, but I didn't even touch them at all. So at times you can't tell what depression really looks like, especially if the person is isolated. In the case of alcohol, most people, at least in America, run interventions with family. They do it almost like a surprise party, and then they tell you that we want to offer you help because it seems you're too weak to ask for it yourself, but we have a rehabilitation center that we hope you would trust us to be able to let you go to and see if they can help you out of it. We also find that being sensitive and discerning, when you said that, ask people about, I heard a phrase during COVID that I found really nice. The lady walked up to her husband and she said, "You're vibrating at a low frequency," meaning that you're not yourself. You're not reacting to things the way you normally would. You're not talking to us the way you normally would. Please see me as a safe place. What's going on, Bobo? Do you understand? Babe, do you want to hang out with your friends? Let them, maybe, because they may be able to tell their friends and not tell their wife because they don't want to be seen as a weakling. So in such cases, women as well should understand that hanging out with the boys is therapeutic for their husbands, for their partners.
Not all cases.
I'm just saying. No, but we let's not start arguing about all cases. I'm speaking perspective. Hanging out with guys is therapeutic. It might take you elsewhere, but let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the one that is therapeutic. You going out to be with your boys, a man needs to be a man. A man needs bromance. A man needs interaction with men, and some women are so insecure to the point where they take everything personal. I will fight you because I'm not talking about the one. I'm not questioning. I'm not asking a question. I'm giving a perspective that not all depressed people are suicidal, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you should not be perceptive to when someone is not acting right.
So let me explain what I was trying to say, that it's not all hanging out with the boys, right? Because again, you made a very strong statement around men will always be men. who defines?
I didn't say that.
You said something around men will always, the
I
boys
said
will.
men need.
Okay. Well, I heard men will be men.
No.
But you see, all those phrases like men will be men
I didn't say
and
that.
hanging out with the boys and all of that. Who defines? Because some boys that you hang out with are your, what's it called? They are the
Enablers.
problem. They are the enablers, right? So, for instance, if you have not even depression now. So,
behavior.
for instance, if you have a particular behavior that you're trying to overcome, right? And you're hanging out with people that are enablers, those are not. How do I explain it? Those are not the right set of people for you to hang out with at that point in time. It might even get you to need to cut. It might need you to at some point to cut off certain kinds of relationship, But how would you do all of this? Let me bring it to a question.
Before you bring it, let me say again. You are focusing on the statements that you had made about alcoholism before I said what I said. The focus of the discussion is not the abuse of any substance.
So you said hanging out is therapeutic.
I'm talking about a depressed person needing a brotherhood of friends.
Definitely.
About.
So let me tie it back to that question of how do you start to, because we actually ran out of time. How do you start to help people? So I get that part where men are the ones that even tell the man they're tough on them the most and all of that. So when you pick up those signs that this person might be going through depression, right? As a spouse, as a family, you've said go and try to get them help with an external person, because usually it's not those internal people that might be able to help. So how do we even start to get to that point where it doesn't reach the point of where somebody is taking their lives? And again, if there's financial pressure, which is really big, where do you even start with helping that person?
Yeah, so the family unit can also be a very strong support system for, bringing in people who are mature people within the family of that person. It can be the uncles, it can be the far parents, it can be other siblings, people who are emotionally mature, to have conversations around how the primary cause of the depression can be resolved, how this person can be helped. But this will only happen if the person is willing to talk about what has brought them to where they are. So first, acceptance and not an environment that is non-judgmental is very important. Once you are able to create that, and you're able to have the person open up to whatever the challenge is within the family unit, we can begin to say, how can we offer this person help? Is it debts to be paid? How can a woman, because there are women who would go like, I married you, you are a useless man, da 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 da. And then there are also women who are supportive, okay? Who are like, okay, you know what? I have this property I like to sell, or I can we talk to my father, or can we talk to your friend, Uchi? Or can we talk to this person in a nice, loving, gentle way? There is a broad spectrum of approaches that can work, and there is a broad spectrum of approaches that can cause even more harm and damage. The thing is to be sensitive to the person that your brother, your family member who is going through this challenge, and find out what peculiar approach can help him in a very practical way. But first, help must come from within the family in terms of how do you provide that cushion that the person can land on. But if you want to get the person off of depression and off of those things for real, you need some kind of external help. But having conversations where you are nudging the person, like I said earlier, gently towards getting some help can open up. You can also have situations where some men will say, I'm okay, I don't need any help, You would, as the person who is in that situation, say, it's okay, you don't need to get any help, and be with them. Make sure they are being monitored very closely, make sure they are being loved, make sure they are being urged to do a lot of external activities. And from there, sometimes when you bring the professional in, the professional will tell you how best to approach it. Psychiatrists help in this situation, psychologists help in this situation, qualified therapists help in this situation.
Absolutely. All right, so good evening, ladies. Why are men told to man up when going through challenges in the society? Moreover, ladies have much voices because of the agenda amongst mixed sex circles. Now, the solution, ladies/women should give men/fathers a welcoming environment at home and on arrival from work. This is from Ade. Ade, Welcome back, oh. They say we should be welcoming you. Welcome back to Ways. He's in the UK. Go ahead.
Good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying? #Ways. Suicide prevention. Daniel, he would write it as a thesis. How can men be more expressive? Suicide alone is deadly and dangerous, and it can never be the solution to any problem. It can only add to it or even multiply it. The excess intake of alcohol can only damage the brain and body and increase depression. How can men be more expressive? They can be more expressive if only they can seek help and maybe ask for psychologists who can give them thorough counseling and advice. Not all depression leads to substance abuse.
Well, we know that.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
All right, so I have this one. It says, let's not keep deceiving ourselves. Nigeria is one of the richest countries on Mother Earth, but our leaders are bent on making this country poor. I think it refers to what's in the
Go
news.
ahead, yeah.
For God's sake, why can't $23 million returned from USA be used to solve the ASU strike, the ongoing ASU strike? The situation in Nigeria is making our men to take their own precious lives in nasty ways, e.g. family challenges, depression, financial pressures. It's only God that will save us in this country. We're all in. Quite sad and terrible. Uwa, your dressing today is truly Nigerian, just like Ngozi. Remain blessed, ladies. It's Bobby Kennedy from Jalingo.
Thank you, Bobby Kennedy.
Can I just quickly ask
a final
again,
question, quickly.
sir, with referral to children, because I'm particular, especially with the boys, what can we do differently in grooming our boys so that they don't become suicidal?
In a minute, please.
So, Nana, you have done some extensive work in grooming young people, and I think you know the answer to that better than
It's
me
really
too.
not for me,
But,
sir. For those out there.
yeah, but you know, boys, conversations. You know, when I was growing up, I use my own life story a lot, and I know that I've met a lot of people who are similar and somewhat different. You know, there were no conversations. Children just cry and they get things done, rather than have conversations about things. You look for quick fixes. The quick fix is to cry or look for some manipulative way to get attention. If parents can begin to say to kids, we get things done by holding conversations, not by looking for quick fixes. Because suicide is somebody else's last minute, everything no work, quick fix. You know, so you're not going to get things by crying. You're not going to get things by hitting somebody and taking and running away. You're going to get something by, numbing your pain with alcohol. You're not going to get things done by, for some people it's drug. Some people don't run to alcohol and drugs, but they run to some destructive behavior. So they run to, illicit relationships. They run to, engage in all kinds of self-sabotaging behavior. For some people, they isolate themselves totally and get really clinically depressed, But we need to begin to not reward shabby behavior with handsome rewards. Crying doesn't get things done. Communication does. What do you want? What do you want? Oh, you can't get this now because I grew up in a system where you were not told why you couldn't get things. You were just not given, or you were beaten and forced, and there were no conversations.
Absolutely.
So once we're not having conversations with boys, and I went to a training here in the UK, and a Nigerian was saying, I can't have that conversation with my family. I tell my children what they should do.
Absolutely.
I said to him, oh God, don't expose us for here.
Absolutely.
Don't expose us for here.
On that note, well, thank you so much, Mr. Usa. We have to bring you back. We'll keep the conversation going, but we ran out of time. Thank you, ladies. Now, before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagrams at WayShowAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media, like, share, and invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. If you are a man out there and you're going through depression, please reach out to anybody. Chat us on Ways. We will answer you. Please. Now, the simple act of raising my hand and admitting I needed some help really turned things around for me, and I was surprised how supportive everyone was. Please, nothing is worth you taking your life for Speak Up Today. We'll see you guys at 8 p.m. tomorrow as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.